Hi, this is Joey Hennigan, agronomist with Beck's Hybrids in Wisconsin. I've got an update for you here during the first full week in June, particularly around the dry conditions we're currently experiencing across most of Wisconsin. I've got three topics I want to touch on during this update. The biggest one being the dry weather and herbicide applications and herbicide performance, and then a quick update on corn side dressing as well as wheat flowering fungicides. So first, we have a continued dry and warm forecast for the next 10 days. Really across the whole state, there's been scattered rain showers over the last week. If you're one of the fortunate ones to have caught a quarter to an inch of rain, that's great. This will apply a little bit less to you, but for most of the state, those rain showers have been so scattered that most areas really haven't gotten any rain. So if you haven't received that quarter to half or more of rain since any soil residual herbicides were applied, those herbicides aren't activated and you're probably seeing a lot of weeds start to grow where we wouldn't expect it to happen because those chemicals usually work pretty well. So if that's the case, we're going to have to move up the timeline of our post applications in both corn and beans. And you might have to be a little more aggressive with the chemicals you choose to use in those applications because you're likely going against a full suite of weed pressure rather than a reduced suite of weed pressure that our pre-emergent herbicides probably would have reduced. In corn, honestly, dicamba is a really good option right now. What it can do is give really good broadleaf weed control, and dicamba itself also gives really good soil activity under dry conditions. So something that can be used there would be a good safe end dicamba product. I like to emphasize the safe end part of that. With the hot and dry conditions we're in, we do have corn under stress. I really don't like to see an unsafe end product go across a cornfield right now because it could lead to some of the tippiness we can see with a corn application of dicamba. So I'd emphasize the safe end products, but I really like the dicamba option for broadleaf control just because of the soil activity dicamba can also give and maybe buy us a little bit of time until some of our other pre's that are out there do finally get rained on. On the bean side of things, of course, we've got E3 beans. We can use 2,4-D on those. 2,4-D doesn't quite give as much soil activity after that foliar activity that it has, but it does give at least a couple of days under dry conditions. So we get a couple of days out of 2,4-D. If you've got XtendFlex beans, of course, we've got the dicamba options in XtendFlex beans as well. Liberty, of course, exists across both those trait platforms as well. With the weather we're having, sunny, warm, Liberty has a pretty good shot of working well. So that's a really good option across both of our bean platforms, and maybe having to get a little more aggressive a little bit earlier in the season here to try to contain and control some of the weed pressure we're likely seeing in the failure of our pre-emergent herbicides due to our lack of rainfall. So just wanted to bring those options up. I would recommend scouting your fields, getting out there frequently and checking them maybe sooner than you might expect because we've got a lot of weeds that are starting to grow aggressively within the last week as we've gotten a lot of warm weather last week. So that's that there. If you have any more questions on herbicide options or what to do in a plan B, plan C, plan D situation, by all means, find your Beck's dealer, Beck's seed advisor, agronomist, myself. More than happy to answer some of those questions as we maybe have to quickly pivot and change our plans. On the same note or same weather condition thoughts, if you're side dressing corn right now, it's starting to ramp up pretty heavily across the whole state. I strongly suggest injecting 3+ inches deep. 6 is better. We don't have a lot of moisture at all in the top 3 inches right now, so injecting less than that or just using a really shallow coulter and nozzle is not a very good practice right now. We're probably leading ourselves to the risk for a lot of loss, even with a stabilizer. We're probably going to outrun the timeline of our stabilizers with the current forecast. So if you are side dressing, I would strongly recommend getting that as deep as you reasonably can into the soil. Really don't like to see a lot of surface applications with Y drops right now. That's not a bad option to get nitrogen into the crop, and we do have a much longer application window for that strategy. So I would probably sit tight on any options like that, but I would like to see nitrogen injected and at least 3, but much better 5 to 6 inches deep. And the Beck's PFR program has shown the advantages of doing it that way. We can put those links in the notes here, but by all means, get that nitrogen into the soil if doing side dressing with our current dry conditions. It's a very good time to do it. It's going to be sitting there ready to go when we do get moisture, but just want to make sure it stays as safe and the lowest risk of loss by getting it deep into the soil right now. And then last topic real quick, we're probably midway through, if not getting closer to wrapping up on the wheat heading fungicide application. But be sure to do not apply a strobilurin fungicide, the class of chemistry like Headline and many others that we can often use during the flag leaf stage. But during our heading stage now, just be careful not to use that class. Use Miravis Ace, Caramba, Prosaro, the ones that are specifically made for head scab applications. And with that being said, with our extremely dry weather, our head scab risk is as close to zero as it can about get. So not a huge agronomic need for those applications, in my opinion. You can still do them. There will still be some plant health benefits that likely come with that application, but we have to be realistic and understand that the disease pressure is pretty much not there. And with our hot and dry conditions, it is tough on wheat grain fill and wheat yield potential this time of year. So use your best judgment there. Contact us if you have questions on what your risk is looking like for the head scab and what benefits you may or may not get from a head scab fungicide application right now. The benefits will probably be less this year with the essentially zero disease pressure and drought conditions for wheat grain fill and the yield potential that is probably impacting as we go along here. So keep that in mind. And if you have any more questions on the current weather forecast, how it's impacting our management, and any plan changes or pivots you need to make, find your Beck seed advisor, dealer, or agronomist, and we'll be glad to help you answer those questions. Have a good day, and thank you very much.